Think about the last time you stood next to something truly ancient. A building, a wall, a monument that has witnessed centuries slip by. There's a quiet power in those stones, isn't there? A whisper of the past that somehow still feels alive. Now, imagine a world where these structures aren't just remnants but defiant survivors, standing tall against the ravages of time, war, and nature itself. From the depths of forgotten deserts to the heart of modern cities, these ancient marvels have stories etched into their very foundation, stories of empires risen and fallen, of builders whose names are lost to history but whose legacies refuse to fade. Today, we're embarking on a journey to uncover 30 of these extraordinary survivors, each one a testament to human ingenuity, perseverance, and the sheer will to endure. What does it take for a structure to outlast civilizations? How do walls built thousands of years ago still stand when so much around them has crumbled to dust? The answers lie in the secrets locked within these ancient designs, secrets of engineering so advanced they rival modern technology, of materials crafted with techniques we're still struggling to replicate. Picture the precision of stone blocks cut so perfectly that not even a razor blade can slide between them, or towering temples aligned with celestial events with an accuracy that defies explanation. These aren't just buildings, they're puzzles waiting to be solved, each one holding clues to the brilliance of the people who dreamed them into existence. But this isn't just a tour of the past, it's an invitation to step into the mystery. As we explore these 30 surviving ancient structures, you'll discover how a pyramid's hidden passages might reveal lost knowledge, why a medieval castle's walls were built to whisper secrets, and how a bridge constructed over 1,000 years ago still carries the weight of modern traffic. The deeper we go, the clearer it becomes. These aren't relics frozen in time. They're living proof of what humanity can achieve when ambition meets artistry, when vision outlasts empires. So, if you've ever wondered what it would be like to touch the handiwork of a civilization long gone, to stand where kings and commoners alike once stood, then you're in the right place. The past isn't just waiting to be remembered, it's waiting to be rediscovered. Let's begin. The Great Pyramid of Giza doesn't just dominate the skyline, it defies time itself. Built over 4,500 years ago as the tomb of Pharaoh Khufu, this colossal structure was once clad in gleaming white limestone, reflecting sunlight so brilliantly it could be seen for miles. But what truly astonishes isn't just its scale, it's the precision. The pyramid's sides are aligned almost perfectly with the cardinal directions north, south, east, and west, with an error margin of just a fraction of a degree. How did ancient builders achieve such accuracy without modern tools? Some theories suggest they used the stars, perhaps aligning the foundations with the pole star or the sun's shadows during equinoxes. Others point to sophisticated leveling techniques involving water channels. Yet despite centuries of study, no single explanation fully unravels the mystery. Then there's the question of construction. The pyramid consists of over 2,300,000 stone blocks, each weighing an average of 2.5 tons, some as heavy as 80 tons. Transporting and lifting these blocks would be a staggering feat even today. Ancient accounts mention ramps, but recent discoveries suggest they might have used a combination of zigzagging pathways and internal ramp systems, hidden within the pyramid's core as it rose. And let's not forget the interior's marvels, the Grand Gallery's corbelled ceiling, the enigmatic air shafts pointing to specific stars, and the king's chamber where the sarcophagus sits, a single piece of granite so precisely cut, it's unclear how it was even placed inside. Beyond engineering, the pyramid held profound cultural significance. For the Egyptians, it wasn't just a tomb but a cosmic gateway designed to propel the pharaoh's soul to the heavens. The alignment with Orion's belt hints at a celestial map tying Khufu's afterlife to the stars. And while the other 6 wonders of the ancient world, like the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, have crumbled into myth, the Great Pyramid endures. It's a silent witness to the rise and fall of dynasties, surviving earthquakes, looters, and even the shifting sands of the Sahara. Standing before it, you're not just looking at a monument. You're facing humanity's oldest unbroken promise to eternity. Rising from the grassy plains of southern England, Stonehenge has stood as one of Earth's most haunting and enduring mysteries for over 4,500 years. Unlike the pyramids with their clear royal purpose, this ring of towering stones offers no inscriptions, no buried treasures, just silent, weathered sentinels arranged with deliberate precision. The how and why of its creation has baffled historians for centuries. One of the most compelling theories suggests Stonehenge functioned as a colossal astronomical calendar. The massive heel stone, standing just outside the main circle, aligns perfectly with the summer solstice sunrise, casting a long shadow directly into the heart of the monument. Other stones appear positioned to mark lunar standstills, rare moments when the moon reaches its extreme northern or southern positions in the sky. For Neolithic farmers, tracking these celestial events would have been crucial for planting and harvest cycles, turning Stonehenge into more than just a structure. It may have been their sky-bound clock, but the real marvel lies in its construction. The largest stones, called sarsens, weigh up to 50 tons and were transported from Marlborough Downs over 20 miles away. How did prehistoric people move these giants without wheels or metal tools? Experiments suggest they might have used wooden sledges, rollers, and sheer manpower, possibly hauling them during winter when the ground was slick with ice. The smaller blue stones, interestingly, came from even farther Wales, over 140 miles distant. Some researchers believe glaciers carried these stones closer, but others argue they were deliberately quarried and transported, a staggering feat of determination. Recent archaeological work has peeled back new layers of mystery. Ground-penetrating radar revealed a vast network of underground shafts forming a mile-wide circle around Stonehenge, possibly marking a sacred boundary or even an ancient processional route. Nearby dig sites uncovered cremated human remains, hinting at the monument's role as a burial site or a place of ancestral worship. And just last year, researchers detected traces of a dismantled stone circle in Wales, nearly identical in diameter to Stonehenge, suggesting its blue stones might have been part of an earlier monument, dismantled and dragged across the country to their final resting place. For the Neolithic builders, Stonehenge was likely more than stone and earth. It may have been a bridge between worlds, where the living communed with the dead, where human rituals echoed the movements of the heavens. Unlike the pyramids built to house a single pharaoh's remains, this was a gathering place for entire communities. The effort required decades, perhaps centuries of labor, speaks to something deeper than mere necessity. This was devotion carved in stone, a testament to humanity's eternal urge to reach beyond the tangible, to find meaning in the alignment of rock and sky. Every chip in those weathered stones isn't just a mark of time, it's a fingerprint left by hands long gone, reaching across millennia to whisper their purpose. The Colosseum doesn't just symbolize Rome, it embodies the raw spectacle and engineering genius of an empire at its peak. When it opened in the year 80, this amphitheater could hold over 50,000 roaring spectators, all gathered to witness blood-soaked gladiator duels, animal hunts featuring exotic beasts like lions and elephants, and even mock naval battles where the arena floor was flooded with water. But beneath the grandeur lay a darker truth. This was a stage where life and death played out for entertainment, where the cheers of the crowd could spare a fallen fighter or condemn him to the final blow. What made the Colosseum revolutionary wasn't just its scale, but its design. The hypogeum, an underground labyrinth of tunnels, cages, and elevators, was the hidden engine powering the spectacle. Gladiators and animals would emerge suddenly through trapdoors as if by magic, while pulleys and counterweights hauled elaborate stage sets into the arena. This network was so advanced, it's often compared to modern stadiums with their retractable roofs and instant replay screens. Even today, architects study the Colosseum's tiered seating and vomitoria passages designed to funnel crowds in and out efficiently, because they remain models for managing large audiences. Nature and time have taken their toll. Earthquakes in the 5th and 14th centuries crumbled sections of the outer wall, while medieval builders pilfered its travertine stone for palaces and churches. Yet, remarkably, 2/3 of the original structure still stands. The secret Roman concrete, a recipe lost for centuries, which gains strength over time as minerals react with rainwater. The Colosseum's survival isn't just luck. It's a testament to an empire that built not just for the moment but for eternity. Walking through its arches today, you're treading the same steps as emperors and slaves, their stories echoing in every weathered stone. Perched high in the Andes, shrouded in mist and mystery, Machu Picchu seems to defy both gravity and time. This Incan masterpiece, built in the 15th century at an altitude of nearly 8,000 feet, wasn't just a city, it was a statement. The precision of its stonework alone is staggering. Massive granite blocks, some weighing over 50 tons, were carved and fitted together so tightly that not even a needle could slip between them. No mortar was used, yet the walls have withstood earthquakes that toppled Spanish colonial buildings centuries later. How did the Incas achieve this? Some scholars believe they employed a technique called ashlar masonry, where stones were painstakingly shaped by rubbing them against each other until the fit was perfect. Others speculate they used wooden tools and sand to polish surfaces to an almost glass-like smoothness. But Machu Picchu's true purpose remains one of history's great debates. Was it a royal retreat for Emperor Pachacuti, a sacred temple dedicated to the sun god Inti, or perhaps an astronomical observatory? The Intihuatana stone, a ritual pillar carved directly from the mountain's bedrock, supports the religious theory. During the equinoxes, the sun casts no shadow from this pillar, an eerie phenomenon suggesting it served as a celestial calendar or even a spiritual anchor, tying the sun to the earth. The Temple of the Sun, with its curved walls and trapezoidal windows perfectly aligned with solstice sunrises, further hints at a site drenched in cosmic reverence. Yet Machu Picchu's isolation adds another layer of intrigue. Hidden amid cloud forests and terraced slopes, it was never discovered by Spanish conquistadors, which may explain its pristine condition. Instead, it was found in 1911 by American explorer Hiram Bingham, though local farmers had known of its existence for generations. Bingham initially believed he'd stumbled upon Vilcabamba, the lost Incan capital, but what he uncovered was far more extraordinary. A time capsule of Incan ingenuity, from its advanced drainage systems that prevented flooding during torrential rains to agricultural terraces designed to grow crops at extreme altitudes. The citadel's layout tells a story of harmony with nature. Buildings follow the contours of the mountain, and sacred structures align with nearby peaks like Huayna Picchu, which was likely considered a divine guardian. Even the stones seem alive, some shaped to mimic the surrounding mountains, blending architecture with the landscape in a way that feels almost organic. Walking its pathways today, you're not just touring ruins, you're stepping into a world where humanity and the earth were inseparable, where every stone was placed with intention, every wall whispered to the heavens. Machu Picchu's greatest secret isn't how it was built, but why a question that lingers in the thin mountain air, as elusive as the clouds that dance around its peaks. The Parthenon doesn't just crown the Acropolis, it crystallizes the soul of ancient Athens. Built in the 5th century before the Common Era as a temple to Athena, goddess of wisdom and war, this marble masterpiece was more than a religious site. It was a bold declaration of democracy's triumph. Every curve and column was engineered to perfection, from the subtle outward lean of the columns correcting for optical illusion to the intricate friezes depicting Athenian myths and victories. The architects Ictinos and Callicrates didn't just construct a building, they choreographed light and shadow, ensuring the temple appeared flawlessly proportional from every angle, even as it loomed over the city. At its heart, the Parthenon embodied Athens' golden age. The sculptures adorning its pediments told stories of divine contests, while the metopes, square panels carved with scenes of Greeks battling centaurs and Amazons, symbolized civilization's victory over chaos. Inside stood Phidia's colossal gold and ivory statue of Athena, a treasure so lavish it reportedly cost as much as the temple itself. But this wasn't just art for art's sake. The Parthenon's grandeur served a political purpose: to project Athens' power after defeating the Persians, uniting citizens under a shared cultural identity. In a city where every free male could vote, the temple stood as a monument to collective achievement, funded by the Delian League's treasury, a controversial move that blurred the line between piety and imperialism. Centuries of turmoil left scars. Converted into a church, then a mosque, and later used as an Ottoman gunpowder store, the Parthenon suffered its most devastating blow in 1687, when a Venetian cannonball ignited the explosives stored inside, blowing apart the center. Yet the greatest controversy surrounds the Elgin marbles. Between 1801 and 1805, British diplomat Lord Elgin removed roughly half the surviving sculptures, shipping them to England under disputed circumstances. Supporters argue he saved them from further destruction. Greeks call it looting. Today, these marbles reside in the British Museum, while replicas fill their vacant spaces in Athens, a silent debate in stone. What's astonishing is how much endures. Despite earthquakes, fires, and wars, the Parthenon's Doric columns still stand, their resilience owing to the Greeks' ingenious construction. They used curved foundations to distribute weight and iron clamps sealed in lead to prevent rust, techniques centuries ahead of their time. Even the marble, quarried from Mount Pentelicus, was chosen for its ability to absorb sunlight, giving the temple a golden glow at dawn. Walking among its ruins now, you're not just seeing a relic, you're witnessing a symbol of human ambition, a structure that fused art, politics, and faith into something immortal. The Parthenon isn't frozen in history, it's a living question about who owns the past and whether beauty can ever truly be divided. Emerging from the burnt orange cliffs of southern Jordan, Petra feels less like a city and more like a mirage, a dream carved directly into the living rock. Known as the Rose-Red City for the way sunlight sets its sandstone ablaze at dawn, this Nabatean marvel wasn't just built, it was sculpted, chiseled from the top down by craftsmen who treated mountains as their canvas. Founded around the 4th century before the Common Era, Petra thrived as a crossroads of civilization, where incense routes from Arabia met silk roads from China, and where desert traders bartered under the watchful gaze of gods and kings. The most iconic site, the treasury, or Al-Kosneh, epitomizes Petra's mystique. Standing nearly 130 feet tall, its facade is a symphony of Hellenistic and Near Eastern artistry. Towering Corinthian columns, statues of mythological figures, and an urn perched at the summit rumored to hold a pharaoh's treasure. But what's truly staggering is how it was made. Nabatean artisans dangled from ropes, carving intricate floral motifs and divine figures with nothing but iron chisels and copper tools. They worked without scaffolding, shaping the cliff face layer by layer, their precision so exact that the interior chambers align perfectly with natural crevices to channel rainwater away, a testament to their fusion of beauty and function. Petra's genius lay in its invisibility. Tucked between narrow canyon walls, the city was nearly impregnable, its entrance a winding fissure called the Sick, just wide enough for a single caravan. The Nabateans amplified this natural defense by carving water channels into the Sick's walls, creating an oasis in the desert that sustained tens of thousands. Their hydraulic engineering was revolutionary. Dams redirected flash floods, and terracotta pipes fed reservoirs hidden beneath the city, ensuring survival in one of Earth's harshest climates. Yet Petra's decline is as enigmatic as its rise. When Rome annexed the Nabatean kingdom in the year 106, trade routes shifted and the city faded into legend. Earthquakes crumbled its temples, and by the Middle Ages, even local Bedouins forgot its original name, calling it simply the Place of the Pharaohs. Rediscovered in 1812 by Swiss explorer Johann Ludwig Burckhardt, Petra's resurrection sparked global fascination, but archaeologists are still unraveling its secrets. Recent laser scans revealed hidden chambers beneath the treasury, while inscriptions hint at ceremonies where priests communed with deities through hallucinogenic rituals. Walking through Petra today, you're tracing the footsteps of merchants, monarchs, and mystics. The monastery, a mammoth structure perched atop 800 steps, echoes with the whispers of pilgrims who once climbed there to honor forgotten gods. The street of facades lined with tombs suggests a society so unafraid of death they celebrated it in stone. And everywhere, the wind carries the scent of iron-rich sandstone, a reminder that Petra wasn't just a city. It was a declaration proof that even in the desert's heart, humanity could carve eternity. At the heart of Mexico's Yucatan jungle, Chichen Itza's El Castillo pyramid doesn't just rise from the earth, it seems to converse with the cosmos. Built by the Maya between the 9th and 12th centuries, this step pyramid is a masterpiece of celestial engineering. Each of its 4 sides has 91 steps, totaling 364 when combined with the shared platform at the top, 1 step for every day of the solar year. But the true magic happens during the equinoxes, when the setting sun casts triangular shadows along the northern staircase, creating the illusion of a serpent slithering down to meet its stone head at the base. This wasn't just artistry, it was a divine choreography honoring Kukulkan, the feathered serpent god who bridged earth and sky. The pyramid's astronomical precision extends beyond its facade. Inside lies a smaller, older pyramid, a nesting doll of history containing a throne carved in the shape of a jaguar, painted red and inlaid with jade. Discovered in the 1930s, this hidden chamber suggests each iteration of El Castillo was built over its predecessor, layering sacred spaces like generations guarding their secrets. But the pyramid's alignment isn't its only wonder. Clap your hands at its base and the sound echoes back as the chirp of the Quetzal bird, a sacred creature in Mayan lore. Architects designed the steps to create this acoustic phenomenon, turning human interaction into a dialogue with the spiritual world. Just beyond El Castillo lies the sacred cenote, a gaping sinkhole where the Maya performed rituals to appease the rain god Chak. Unlike the pyramid's precise geometry, the cenote is raw nature, a turquoise pool surrounded by sheer cliffs. For centuries, objects and human remains were cast into its depths. Gold figurines, jade masks, and even the bones of children, all offerings to ensure fertile crops or divine favor. Early dredging operations recovered skulls with cranial deformations, hinting at sacrificial victims from elite families. Yet the cenote wasn't just a site of death. Pilgrims believed its waters were a portal to the underworld, a place where prayers could reach the gods directly. Chichen Itza's architecture reveals a cultural crossroads. The Temple of the Warriors, with its forest of carved columns, mirrors the Toltec capital of Chala, suggesting a period of conquest or cultural exchange. Friezes depict eagles and jaguars devouring human hearts, motifs alien to classic Mayan art but central to Toltec mythology. Even the colossal ball court, the largest in Mesoamerica, carries this blended legacy. Here, players reenacted cosmic battles, using hips to propel a rubber ball through stone hoops, a game that could end in decapitation, with skulls possibly displayed on the nearby Tzompantli, or skull platform. What makes Chichen Itza extraordinary isn't just its scale, but its synthesis. The Maya didn't merely build, they encoded their understanding of time, astronomy, and theology into stone. El Castillo is both calendar and temple, its shadows measuring the year's passage while its echoes mimic sacred birds. The cenote ties life to death, its depths holding both terror and transcendence. And the city's very stones whisper of empires colliding, of gods borrowed and reimagined. Standing here, you're not just walking through ruins, you're stepping into a world where architecture was alchemy, turning rock into reverence, and where every shadow, every echo was a thread in the fabric of the universe. Emerging from Cambodia's dense jungles like a mirage, Angkor Wat isn't just a temple, it's a sprawling testament to divine ambition. Built in the 12th century by King Suryavarman II, this colossal structure stretches over 400 acres, making it the largest religious monument ever constructed. Originally dedicated to the Hindu god Vishnu, its 5 iconic towers were designed to mirror Mount Meru, the mythical home of the gods. But Angkor Wat's story doesn't end with its creation. Centuries later, it transformed into a Buddhist sanctuary, its walls adorned with carvings of lotus flowers alongside scenes from Hindu epics like the Ramayana. This duality makes it a living record of spiritual evolution, where deities from 2 faiths share the same sacred space. What's truly staggering is how the Khmer Empire tamed nature to build this marvel. Beyond the temple's grandeur lies an intricate hydraulic system, a network of canals, moats, and reservoirs that turned this region into an agricultural powerhouse. The Baray, a massive artificial lake spanning 5 miles, wasn't just for irrigation. It symbolized the cosmic ocean surrounding Mount Meru. Engineers designed sluice gates to control flooding during monsoons and retain water for droughts, showcasing a mastery of hydraulics unmatched in the medieval world. Even today, satellite imagery reveals grid-like patterns etched into the landscape, evidence of fields fed by these ancient waterways, sustaining a population that may have exceeded 1 million at its peak. Time and the jungle nearly claimed Angkor Wat. By the 15th century, shifting political tides and environmental strain led to its abandonment. Strangler figs and kapok trees wrapped their roots around towers, their grips slowly cracking stone apart. Yet this very encroachment preserved it. Unlike monuments stripped for building materials, the jungle acted as a shield, hiding Angkor Wat from looters until French explorer Henry Mauhot rediscovered it in 1860. His accounts ignited global fascination but also raised questions. How could a civilization capable of such feats vanish? Modern research suggests climate played a role. Decades of drought followed by devastating monsoons may have collapsed the delicate water system that sustained the empire. Restoration efforts today walk a delicate line between preservation and intervention. Teams use laser scanning to map crumbling corridors, while archaeologists piece together fallen bas-reliefs depicting celestial dances and epic battles. One technique, anastylosis, involves dismantling unstable sections and rebuilding them with original stones, a painstaking process that can take decades. Local artisans trained in ancient carving methods repair devotas, the temple's ethereal goddess figures whose smiles have watched over Angkor for nearly a millennium. Meanwhile, the jungle remains an ever-present force. Workers must constantly clear roots threatening to destabilize foundations, a reminder that nature's reclaiming grip is never far away. Standing at dawn as the first light gilds Angkor Wat's towers, you're witnessing more than architecture. You're seeing a symphony of faith, engineering, and resilience. The temple's moat reflects not just stone, but the dreams of an empire that sought to build heaven on earth. Every eroded step, every moss-covered carving, whispers of a time when gods and kings walked these halls, and of the ordinary hands that lifted them toward the sky. The Great Wall of China winds like a stone serpent across mountains and deserts, stretching over 13,000 miles. But its most famous myth is also its least true. Despite popular belief, this ancient marvel isn't visible from space with the naked eye. Astronauts confirm it blends into the landscape like a thread woven into Earth's tapestry, a humbling reminder that even humanity's grandest creations are dwarfed by the planet's scale. What makes the wall extraordinary isn't its visibility from orbit, but the sheer audacity of its construction. Built piecemeal over 2,000 years by successive dynasties, it's less a single wall and more a patchwork of rammed earth, brick, and ingenuity, each section telling a story of emperors who gambled everything on keeping invaders at bay. The earliest segments, erected during the Qin dynasty in the 3rd century before the Common Era, were little more than packed dirt reinforced with wooden frames. But as threats from nomadic tribes like the Mongols grew, so did the wall's sophistication. By the Ming dynasty in the 14th century, builders were crafting formidable barriers of kiln-fired bricks, held together with mortar made from sticky rice flour, a recipe so durable it's withstood centuries of weathering. Watchtowers punctuate the structure every few hundred yards, positioned within arrow-shot distance of one another to relay smoke signals or drumbeats alerting garrisons to approaching danger. Some sections even feature slanted parapets, allowing defenders to rain arrows down while remaining shielded, a deadly geometry of survival. Labor came at a horrific cost. Historians estimate millions of soldiers, peasants, and convicts toiled on the wall, many buried anonymously in its foundations. Frozen winters, blistering summers, and the constant threat of raids made the work a death sentence for countless workers, giving rise to legends of bodies ground into the mortar, though archaeology suggests this is more folklore than fact. Yet the wall wasn't just a barrier, it was a bustling ecosystem. Garrison towns sprouted along its length where soldiers traded with Silk Road merchants and granaries stockpiled millet to feed armies. In quieter eras, the wall became a customs checkpoint, taxing caravans carrying jade, silk, and spices. Today, sections like Muxioniu reveal the wall at its most majestic. Nestled in rolling hills 70 kilometers from Beijing, this stretch boasts crenellated battlements and watchtowers with ornate brick carvings, some shaped like lotus flowers to bless those stationed there. Unlike the crumbling western segments swallowed by deserts, Muxioniu was meticulously restored, its steps so steep they feel like climbing into the clouds. But even here, the wall's true power lies in the details, the grooves worn into stone by centuries of boots, the narrow spy holes where sentries scan the horizon, the way the structure molds itself to the mountain's contours like it grew there. Walking its spine, you're tracing the boundary between fear and ambition, between the earth and the empires that tried to tame it. The Great Wall never fully stopped invaders. Mongol horsemen breached it repeatedly, but as a symbol of resilience it remains unbroken, a monument to the human will to endure. The Pantheon in Rome isn't just a building, it's a defiance of physics. Nearly 2,000 years after its completion, its dome remains the world's largest unreinforced concrete structure, a record that still stands unmatched. Walk inside and your eyes instinctively climb toward the oculus, the 9-meter-wide opening at the dome's apex that floods the space with shifting light. Rain falls through it, snow drifts in, yet the marble floor, slightly convex and dotted with drainage holes, channels water away effortlessly. This isn't just architecture, it's a conversation between earth and sky, a space where the divine and the engineered merge. What makes the Pantheon's dome so revolutionary is its composition. Roman builders used progressively lighter materials as they ascended, thick travertine at the base, mixed volcanic stone in the middle, and pumice, almost foam-like in its lightness, at the top. This gradation reduced weight without sacrificing strength, while the recessed coffers, those square indentations covering the ceiling, served a dual purpose. They lightened the load even further and created an illusion of heavenly depth. The concrete itself was a marvel, mixed with volcanic ash from Pozzuoli, a recipe that allowed it to cure underwater and resist cracks for centuries. Modern engineers still can't fully replicate its durability. Originally built by Agrippa in 27 before the Common Era, the Pantheon burned down twice before Emperor Hadrian reconstructed it around the year 126. Unlike later Christian architects who obsessed over symmetry, Hadrian's team embraced subtle irregularities. The dome's thickness varies, its curvature isn't mathematically perfect, and the brick arches embedded in the walls act like hidden buttresses, redistributing weight in ways Renaissance scholars would later struggle to decode. The Pantheon's survival is partly luck. It avoided the earthquakes that flattened Rome's other ancient landmarks, but mostly genius. When Christianity swept through Rome, the Pantheon escaped destruction through reinvention. In the year 609, Pope Boniface IV converted it into a church, consecrating it as Santa Maria ad Martyrs. This decision saved it from the fate of other pagan temples, which were often dismantled for their marble. Instead, the Pantheon became a vessel for new faith, its niches once holding statues of Jupiter and Mars now sheltering saints and martyrs. Raphael, the Renaissance master, chose it as his final resting place, his tomb inscribed with a humble epitaph. Here lies Raphael, by whom nature feared to be outdone while he lived, and when he died, feared that she herself would die. Standing beneath the oculus at noon, when sunlight forms a perfect beam like a spotlight from the heavens, you're participating in a ritual as old as Rome itself. The Pantheon isn't a relic. It's a living clock, its light marking the hours, the seasons, the slow turn of millennia. Every crack in its concrete tells a story of emperors who imagined themselves gods, of architects who challenged the limits of their materials, of a city that keeps finding new meaning in ancient stones. The dome's secret isn't just how it stands, but why, because some creations are too audacious, too beautiful to ever let fall. Teotihuacan rises from the Mexican highlands like a question carved in stone, a sprawling metropolis built by a people whose name, language, and ultimate fate remain locked in silence. Flourishing between the 1st and 7th centuries, this city of the gods was once home to over 100,000 inhabitants, making it one of the largest urban centers of the ancient world. Yet unlike the Maya or Aztecs, its builders left no decipherable texts, no royal tombs boasting a king's name. Their identity is a ghost haunting the very monuments they created. The Pyramid of the Sun dominates the landscape, its 250-foot bulk constructed from over 3 million tons of stone. Climbing its steep steps, you're tracing the path of a ritual performed for centuries, though who climbed here and what they worshipped, we can only guess. Modern excavations reveal the pyramid isn't solid, but conceals a cave system beneath its foundation. For Mesoamerican cultures, caves were portals to the underworld, suggesting the pyramid's placement was no accident. Its alignment compounds the mystery. The structure faces the setting sun on August 12th, a date that may have marked the beginning of their calendar cycle. Nearby, the smaller but equally precise Pyramid of the Moon mirrors the contours of Cerro Gordo, the sacred mountain looming behind it, as if stitching the city into the fabric of the earth itself. Walking the Avenue of the Dead, the city's central artery, stretching nearly a mile and a half, you're flanked by the ruins of ceremonial platforms and sprawling residential compounds. Murals peek through layers of decay, their pigment still vibrant after 15 centuries. Jaguars prowl, feathered serpents coil, and a watery paradise teems with fish and flowers. One recurring figure, often called the Great Goddess, appears with clawed hands and an owl headdress, her identity debated by scholars. Was she a deity, a priestess, or something else entirely? The absence of military imagery in these artworks hints at a society less obsessed with conquest than contemporaries like the Maya, though their influence was undeniable. Teotihuacan's reach stretched across Mesoamerica. Obsidian tools crafted here have been found as far as Guatemala, while its architectural style, tallad table rows, sloping walls alternating with vertical panels, appears in Maya cities like Tikal. Evidence suggests Teotihuacan may have even installed puppet rulers there, a 6th century political intervention preserved on stelae depicting warriors in Teotihuacano garb. Yet by 750, the city lay abandoned, its temples burned in a deliberate, ritualized destruction. Theories range from internal revolt to drought, but the truth may be simpler. Civilizations like pyramids eventually return to dust. What lingers is the city's spiritual legacy. The Aztecs, who stumbled upon these ruins centuries later, believed them the birthplace of the fifth sun, the current cosmic era in their mythology. They named it Teotihuacan, the place where gods were made, and borrowed its symbols from the feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl to the rain god Tlaloc. Today, the ruins hum with an eerie energy, especially during the spring equinox when thousands gather to recharge with the pyramid's purported energy. Whether mystical or metaphorical, the impulse is ancient, to stand where gods and mortals once met and to feel the weight of time press against your skin. Teotihuacan's true power lies not in the answers it gives, but in the silence between its stones, a reminder that some histories are written not in words, but in the lay of the land, the angle of the sun, and the echoes of footsteps on a sacred road. High above Granada's modern rooftops, the Alhambra glows like a delicate sandcastle frozen in time, a jewel of Islamic architecture where every arch, tile, and fountain whispers of a kingdom's twilight. Built as a fortress in the 9th century and transformed into a royal palace by the Nasrid dynasty in the 13th, this sprawling complex wasn't just a home for sultans, it was a manifesto in stone and water, proclaiming that even in exile, Moorish Spain could craft paradise on earth. The moment you step into the Court of the Lions, you're surrounded by a forest of slender columns, their capitals so intricately carved they seem to float like lace. At its heart, 12 marble lions, silent, enigmatic circle a fountain, their mouths spouting water in a rhythmic dance that's lasted 700 years. Each spout represents an hour, a zodiac sign, a verse from a forgotten poem. This is mathematics made manifest where hydraulics and art became inseparable. The Nasrid palaces are a masterclass in illusion. Walls dissolve into honeycombs of stucco so finely detailed they resemble solidified foam, a style called muqarnas that turns ceilings into cascading stalactites of light and shadow. Arabic calligraphy coils around doorways, not just as decoration but as divine proclamation. Quranic verses praising God's mercy intertwine with poetry boasting of the Sultan's power. In the Hall of the Ambassadors, the throne once sat beneath a dome inlaid with cedar and mother of pearl, arranged to mimic the 7 heavens of Islamic cosmology. Even the floors played tricks, polished to a mirror sheen. They reflected sunlight onto gold leaf ceilings, ensuring the rooms glowed even on cloudy days. The Moors called this Al-Qasr al-Hamra, the Red Fortress, not just for its clay walls, but for the way sunset bathed them in crimson, as if the stones bled with the beauty of a fading empire. Yet the Alhambra's genius wasn't confined to its palaces. The General Life Gardens, a short walk uphill, are a study in controlled wildness. Water channels cut through terraces of cypress and myrtle, their flow calibrated to the slightest gradient so streams murmur rather than rush. Roses climb trellises planted 6 centuries ago, their scent mingling with orange blossoms from trees the Nasrids imported from Persia. These weren't just gardens, they were cooling systems, their shade and evaporation lowering temperatures during scorching summers. And everywhere, the sound of water trickling in acequias hidden beneath walkways, spouting from fountains shaped like chalices, pooling in reflecting basins that doubled the Alhambra's grandeur. The Moors didn't just build with stone, they built with air, scent, and sound, crafting an experience for all 5 senses. The year 1492 marked a crossroads. When the Catholic monarchs Ferdinand and Isabella conquered Granada, the Alhambra became their trophy, but instead of demolishing it, as happened to so many Islamic sites during the Reconquista, they preserved it, even adding their own touches. Charles V, their grandson, bulldozed part of the Nasrid palaces to erect a hulking Renaissance palace right in the complex's heart, a jarring collision of styles that today stands as a monument to cultural tension. The Church of Santa Maria la Maya, built atop the Royal Mosque, mirrors Spain's uneasy fusion of faiths, but the Alhambra's soul endured. 19th century writers like Washington Irving, who lived in its empty halls while penning tales of the Alhambra, reignited global fascination, saving it from neglect. Restoration teams now battle time and tourism, using 3D scans to replicate eroded carvings and limiting daily visitors to protect fragile stucco. To walk the Alhambra today is to wander through layers of longing. The Nasrids knew their reign was ending. You can feel it in the melancholy poetry etched into the walls. Lines like, "There is no victor but God," that seem to mourn their own decline. Yet in their desperation, they created something timeless. The play of light through lattice windows, the way a breeze carries the scent of jasmine from courtyard to courtyard, the echo of footsteps on tiles arranged in dizzying geometric stars. These aren't relics. They're invitations. The Alhambra doesn't just belong to Spain or Islam or UNESCO. It belongs to anyone who's ever stood in a garden and wished for a moment that beauty could outlast empires. In a dry field outside Zion in 1974, farmers digging a well struck something far stranger than water, a life-sized clay head, its expression frozen in quiet defiance. What they'd unearthed was the first of thousands, an underground regiment known as the Terracotta Army, silent guardians of China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang. Buried for over 2,200 years, this sprawling necropolis wasn't just a funerary display. It was an entire ecosystem of the afterlife, meticulously crafted to mirror the emperor's earthly dominion. Each soldier is a masterpiece of individuality, no two faces alike. Some wear braided hair, others intricate top knots. Some stand tall with chests thrust forward, others kneel as archers with brows furrowed in concentration. The artisans even signed their work, pressing fingerprints into wet clay alongside inscriptions naming their workshops. Modern scans reveal pigments like malachite green and cinnabar red once coated these figures, though most hues faded within minutes of exposure to air. But the real shock lies in their numbers. Estimates suggest 8,000 soldiers, 130 chariots, and 670 horses, all positioned in battle formation across 3 massive pits, their ranks facing east toward the kingdoms Qin had conquered. Qin Shi Huang's obsession with immortality shaped every aspect of this project. Paranoid about assassination, he employed 70,000 laborers, many of whom were later buried alive with the secret of the tomb's location. Historical records describe rivers of mercury flowing through the underground complex. A detailed modern soil tests corroborate with unusually high mercury levels. The emperor's central tomb remains unopened, sealed beneath a man-made mountain, its contents protected by automated crossbows allegedly rigged to fire at intruders. Archaeologists hesitate to excavate, both out of respect and fear that exposure could destroy fragile artifacts, silk banners, lacquerware, perhaps even the emperor's remains preserved in this time capsule for millennia. What makes the Terracotta Army extraordinary isn't just its scale, but its purpose. Unlike Egyptian pharaohs who sought solo passage to the afterlife, Qin envisioned an eternal empire, complete with bureaucrats, acrobats, and musicians, all rendered in clay. Recent excavations uncovered terracotta officials still clutching wooden tablets, their inscriptions detailing grain taxes and legal codes. This was no vanity project. It was a bureaucratic afterlife where every soldier, every scribe had a role to play. Standing among these silent ranks, you're not just witnessing art, you're seeing one man's desperate bid to conquer death itself, an ambition so vast it took an army to carry it into eternity. The Hagia Sophia doesn't just dominate Istanbul's skyline, it embodies the clash and fusion of empires, faiths, and architectural revolutions. Built in just 5 years under Emperor Justinian in the year 537, this colossal structure began as the grandest cathedral of Christendom, its very name meaning holy wisdom. But what made it groundbreaking wasn't just its size, it was the audacity of its dome. Soaring 180 feet above the floor, this seemingly weightless canopy of brick and mortar defied the physics of its time. The architects Anthemius of Tralles and Isidore of Miletus achieved the impossible by resting the dome on four pendentives curved triangular vaults that distributed its weight to massive piers below. When sunlight streams through its 40 windows, the dome appears to hover like a golden halo, an effect so ethereal Procopius, Justinian's court historian, claimed it was suspended from heaven by a golden chain. For nearly 1,000 years, the Hagia Sophia stood as the heart of Eastern Orthodoxy, its walls shimmering with mosaics depicting Christ, the Virgin Mary, and emperors in celestial gold. But these artworks faced a brutal purge during the 8th century iconoclasm, when Byzantine rulers ordered religious images destroyed as idolatrous. Many were chiseled away or plastered over, yet some survived, like the stunning 6th century mosaic of the Virgin and Child in the apse, their faces serene despite the violence swirling around them. Centuries later, new mosaics emerged, like the haunting Deci's panel from the 1300s, where Christ's piercing gaze seems to follow you across the room. These fragments are ghosts of the cathedral's first life, whispers of faith preserved under layers of time. In 1453, the Hagia Sophia's fate and the fate of Constantinople changed overnight. When Mehmed the Conqueror stormed the city, he rode straight to the cathedral, dismounted, and scattered earth over his head in a gesture of humility before converting it into a mosque. The crosses were replaced with Islamic calligraphy, minarets rose like sentinels at its corners, and the mosaics vanished under layers of plaster, not out of malice, but because Islamic tradition forbids figurative art in places of worship. Yet, even as a mosque, the Hagia Sophia retained its Christian echoes. The mihrab, indicating the direction of Mecca, was placed slightly off-center to respect the building's original alignment, and the names of Allah, Muhammad, and the caliphs now shared space with hidden mosaics of archangels peeking through cracks in the plaster. The dome, however, remained the star. Ottoman architects marveled at its engineering, replicating its design in mosques like the Blue Mosque and Süleymaniye. But earthquakes took their toll. The original dome collapsed in 558 and was rebuilt higher and sturdier. Sinan, the legendary Ottoman architect, later added buttresses to stabilize the structure, creating the silhouette we recognize today. When the Hagia Sophia became a museum in 1935 under Turkey's secular reforms, restorers made a startling discovery. Beneath the plaster, the Christian mosaics had survived almost untouched, their colors still luminous after centuries in darkness. Today, the Hagia Sophia is a palimpsest of history, its walls adorned with both Quranic inscriptions and uncovered mosaics of the Virgin Mary, its floors worn smooth by the feet of pilgrims, sultans, and tourists. The air hums with the echo of chants in Greek and Arabic, of hymns and calls to prayer that once filled this space. Walking its halls, you're treading a line between worlds where every stone tells two stories. The Hagia Sophia isn't just a building, it's a conversation between faiths, a testament to the enduring power of beauty to transcend the very divides it was meant to symbolize. Isolated in the vast Pacific, 2,000 miles from the nearest continent, Easter Island's Moai stand as silent witnesses to one of humanity's most enigmatic chapters. These towering stone figures, some weighing over 80 tons and standing 30 feet tall, weren't just carved, they were quarried from the volcanic rock of Rono Raraku, then transported miles across rugged terrain without wheels, draft animals, or modern machinery. The how of their journey has puzzled explorers for centuries, but the why cuts even deeper. These weren't mere monuments, they were conduits between the living and the dead, embodiments of sacred ancestors believed to watch over the island's clans with unblinking stone eyes. Walk the slopes of Rono Raraku today, and you'll find nearly 400 moai in various states of completion, as if the sculptors downed tools mid-chisel. Some protrude from the earth at angles, their bodies still fused to the bedrock. Others lie along ancient roads, forever stranded on their intended route to ceremonial platforms called ahu. The most compelling clue to their transport comes from oral traditions, which describe the statues walking to their sites with the help of divine power. Modern experiments suggest this might be more than myth. By rocking the moai side to side with ropes, a technique called parbucklings, small teams could have maneuvered them upright in a staggering, forward-lurching motion. Grooves in the roads hint at this method, with flattened paths and strategically placed pits to pivot the statues during their journey. But the moai's story takes a darker turn. Radiocarbon dating reveals their construction peaked between the 13th and 15th centuries, coinciding with the island's ecological collapse. The same people who carved these giants had leveled the island's once lush palm forests, likely to clear land for agriculture and rollers to move the statues. Without trees, the soil eroded, crop yields plummeted, and the society that built the moai fractured into warring factions. By the time European explorers arrived in 1722, many statues had been toppled, their eyes originally inset with coral and obsidian, smashed or stolen. The very ancestors meant to protect the island now lay face down in the dirt, symbols of a paradise lost to unchecked ambition. Yet recent discoveries complicate this narrative. Soil analysis shows some toppled moai were carefully placed to protect buried fertility pits, suggesting their destruction might have been ritualistic rather than vengeful. And not all moai face inland, some gaze outward, possibly guiding voyagers to freshwater sources or fishing grounds. Even the idea of societal collapse is being re-examined. When Dutch explorer Jacob Roggeveen first spotted the island on Easter Sunday in 1722, he described a thriving population with canoes and gardens. The real devastation came later, with slave raids and introduced diseases decimating the Rapa Nui people. The moai's greatest lesson isn't about failure but resilience. Today, teams using traditional methods have successfully walked replicas to their ahu, proving the ingenuity behind these feats. Modern Rapa Nui artists continue carving, not moai, but smaller works that keep their cultural memory alive. And those iconic eyes, island elders have begun restoring them to a select few statues, reawakening their ancestral gaze. Standing before a moai at sunrise, you're not just looking at a relic. You're facing a mirror, one that reflects both the heights of human creativity and the fragile balance between reverence for the past and survival in the present. The stones don't whisper their secrets easily, but they remind us that every civilization leaves fingerprints, even when its hands are gone. Carved into the heart of ancient Ephesus, the Library of Celsus wasn't just a repository of scrolls, it was a dazzling fusion of intellect, power, and eternal homage. Built in the early 2nd century, this towering facade served dual purposes: a public library housing 12,000 precious manuscripts, and a grand mausoleum for Tiberius Julius Celsus Pulminus, the Roman governor of Asia, whose sarcophagus lay beneath the marble floors. Imagine walking its halls, where scholars once debated philosophy under the gaze of statues personifying wisdom, knowledge, destiny, and virtue, each niche holding a marble guardian of human aspiration. The library's design was revolutionary for its time. Unlike most Roman buildings with flat exteriors, its facade curved inward like a stage set, creating an illusion of greater depth. 2 stories of towering columns framed ornate alcoves, their capitals a mix of Corinthian and composite styles, while statues of Celsus himself stood between them, forever immortalized in the act of reading. The lower levels served as a monumental entrance, but the real treasure lay within. A climate-controlled inner chamber with double walls to protect delicate papyrus from Ephesus' humid summers. Scrolls were stored in niches along the walls, their labels meticulously organized, a system so advanced it rivaled the Great Library of Alexandria. Yet the library's brilliance was shadowed by tragedy. In the 3rd century, either an earthquake or Gothic raiders, historians still debate, which reduced much of the structure to rubble. Its precious contents vanished, likely consumed by flames or scattered across the Mediterranean. For centuries, the ruins lay buried under layers of silt from the Cester River until Austrian archaeologists began painstaking excavations in the early 20th century. What they uncovered was a puzzle of thousands of fragments, each bearing clues to the library's former glory. The reconstruction that followed was nothing short of miraculous. Using a technique called anastylosis, experts reassembled the facade like a colossal jigsaw, slotting original pieces into place with minimal modern reinforcement. Today, standing before its meticulously restored columns, you're seeing 85% original material, a rarity in ancient reconstructions. The statues in the niches are replicas, their originals now safeguarded in Vienna, but even their copies whisper of the library's dual legacy. This was a place where the living came to seek knowledge, and the dead were honored not with silence, but with the eternal rustle of turning pages. What makes the Library of Celsus extraordinary isn't just its beauty, but its defiance. Earthquakes couldn't erase it, nor time bury it completely. Even as a ruin, it inspired Renaissance architects who studied its drawings, borrowing its theatrical proportions for Europe's grandest libraries. Walking its steps now, you're tracing the path of scholars long gone, their voices echoing in the marble proof that some monuments don't just store books. They become them, their stories waiting to be read in every carved scroll and weathered stone. Rising from the sun-baked plains of modern-day Iraq, the ziggurat of Ur stands as a monumental stairway between earth and heaven. Built around 2100 years before the Common Era by King Ur-Nammu of the Sumerian civilization, this massive stepped pyramid wasn't just a temple. It was the physical and spiritual heart of a city where priests communed with gods high above the mortal world. Unlike Egypt's pyramids designed as sealed tombs, ziggurats were vibrant hubs of worship, their terraced levels symbolizing the cosmic layers between humanity and the divine. What's astonishing is how this structure endured. While most mud brick monuments crumbled into dust, Ur's ziggurat survived millennia thanks to Sumerian engineering genius. The core wasn't just packed earth, it was a lattice of reed matting and drainage channels that prevented water from seeping into the fragile bricks. Each layer was meticulously designed. Sun-dried mud bricks formed the interior, while fire-baked bricks coated in bitumen, a natural tar, shielded the exterior from erosion. The Sumerians didn't just build, they engineered for eternity, calculating angles and material strength with precision that rivals modern construction. Climbing the reconstructed steps today, you're tracing a sacred path once reserved for priests. The summit originally held a shrine to Nana, the moon god, where offerings were made under the stars. Rituals here weren't solitary acts but grand spectacles, with the entire city gathering below as smoke from sacrifices spiraled skyward. The ziggurat's alignment was no accident either. Its corners pointed to cardinal directions, and its staircases faced the rising sun during equinoxes, turning astronomy into architecture. But Ur's ziggurat also tells a story of resurrection. Buried under desert sands for centuries, it was unearthed in the 1920s by British archaeologist Leonard Woolley, who painstakingly pieced together its history. His team discovered something remarkable. The bricks bore the stamped name of Ur-Nammu, a rare signature of royal pride. Later, Saddam Hussein ordered a controversial restoration, adding modern bricks to the facade, a decision debated by scholars but one that allows visitors to glimpse its original grandeur. Standing before this ancient stairway, you're witnessing humanity's first skyscraper, a testament to a civilization that dared to build towards the heavens. The ziggurat wasn't just stone and tar, it was faith made tangible, a bridge between the earthly and the eternal. Its weathered bricks still whisper of processions long past, of voices calling down from the heights to gods who might, for a moment, have felt close enough to touch. The Temple of Karnak isn't just a monument, it's an entire civilization's devotion carved in stone. A sprawling testament to how generations of pharaohs tried to outdo each other in the name of the gods. Covering over 200 acres along the east bank of the Nile, This vast complex dedicated to Amun-Ra grew like a living organism over 2,000 years, with every ruler adding their own chapels, obelisks, and towering gateways. Walking through it today feels like stepping into a divine competition, where the ambitions of Thutmose III, Ramses II, and Hatshepsut still echo in the shadows of their creations. At the heart of Karnak lies the Great Hypostyle Hall, a forest of 134 towering columns that seem to swallow the sky. Each one stands nearly 70 feet tall, their papyrus-shaped capitals wide enough to hold 50 people atop their surfaces. The effect is deliberate, designed to make worshippers feel like ants beneath the gaze of the gods. The hall's central columns, thicker and taller than the rest, were once painted in vivid blues and golds to mimic the celestial realm, while the outer aisles, dimmer and narrower, symbolized the chaotic edges of creation. When sunlight pierces the gaps between these stone giants, it casts striped shadows that slither like serpents across the floor, a daily reminder of Amun-Ra's journey across the heavens. But Karnak's true genius lies in its alignment not just with the stars, but with the Nile itself. The temple's main axis runs perpendicular to the river, creating a mirrored relationship between the waters that sustained life and the sanctuary where gods were appeased. During the annual Opet festival, priests carried the statue of Amun in a golden bark from Karnak to Luxor Temple, a journey that reenacted the god's mythical marriage to the goddess Mut. The procession route, flanked by sphinxes with ram's heads, turned the entire city into a stage for divine drama. Even the sacred lake, a vast rectangular pool within the complex, wasn't just for ritual purification. Its waters were believed to mirror the primordial ocean from which creation sprang. The most audacious additions came from Hatshepsut, the female pharaoh who dared to build where others hesitated. Her towering obelisks, sheathed in electrum, once caught the first and last light of day, acting as colossal sundials. One still stands, its hieroglyphs boasting of her piety. "I have done this with a loving heart for my father Amun." Nearby, the festival hall of Thutmose III breaks all conventions with its unique tent-like columns, possibly inspired by military campaigns in Canaan. Then there's the infamous Botanical Garden, its walls carved with exotic plants and animals the pharaoh encountered abroad, an ancient Instagram feed in stone. Yet Karnak's grandeur hides a darker truth. To fund these projects, pharaohs looted older monuments, recycling stones like Akhenaten's dismantled temples to the sun god Aten. Even the sacred precinct wasn't immune to politics when the Ptolemies took power. They added their own shrines, clumsily grafting Greek aesthetics onto Egyptian theology. Over centuries, silt from the Nile's floods buried parts of the complex, while earthquakes toppled obelisks. Napoleon's scholars, encountering the ruins in the 18th century, couldn't believe such scale was possible without modern tools. What makes Karnak extraordinary isn't just its size, but its stubborn refusal to be forgotten. The complex still breathes quite literally as morning winds rush through the hypostyle hall, humming between the columns like the whispers of long-dead priests. At dusk, when the stones glow amber and the Nile's reflection stretches toward the sanctuary, it's easy to understand why the ancients believed this wasn't just a temple. It was the place where heaven and earth met, where every added pylon, every carved name was a prayer in stone, begging the gods to remember. Jutting from the hills of southern Greece, the Lion Gate of Mycenae isn't just an entrance, it's a Bronze Age declaration of power, carved from stones so massive they were later believed to be the work of mythical giants. Built around 1250 years before the Common Era, this towering gateway guards the citadel with a 10-ton lintel and walls of Cyclopean masonry, so named because later Greeks couldn't imagine humans moving such boulders without the help of the one-eyed Cyclops. The technique wasn't just about intimidation, it was engineering genius. Each irregular limestone block was carefully fitted together without mortar, their interlocking shapes distributing weight so precisely that earthquakes over 3 millennia couldn't shake them apart. Above the gate, a relief of two lionesses standing on their hind legs grips a central column, an icon so striking it's become synonymous with Mycenae itself. But these aren't ordinary predators. They're missing heads once crafted from separate pieces of precious metal, likely faced inward as if guarding the city from its own inhabitants rather than outsiders. The column between them, adorned with a sacred Minoan-style taper, suggests a spiritual dimension, perhaps a symbol of the palace's divine authority or a nod to the goddess Potnia, worshipped as mistress of the lions in contemporary tablets. This wasn't mere decoration. It was a billboard proclaiming the ruler's dual role as warrior and high priest. Step through the gate and you're walking the same passage Homer immortalized in his epics. Mycenae was the legendary seat of Agamemnon, who led the Greeks to Troy in the Iliad, and the lion gate's imposing stature aligns perfectly with his epithet, Lord of mighty gold-rich Mycenae. While archaeologists debate whether Agamemnon was historical or mythical, the gate's construction coincides with the era Homer described, a time when Mycenae dominated the Aegean. The sprawling citadel beyond, with its royal tombs and labyrinthine corridors, even inspired descriptions of Troy itself. One of those tombs, mistakenly dubbed the Treasury of Atreus by later explorers, boasts a corbelled dome so advanced it remained the widest unsupported vault in the world for over 1,000 years. Yet the Lion Gate's true secret lies in what it hides. Recent ground-penetrating radar revealed a hidden chamber beneath the threshold, a feature common in Hittite and Near Eastern gates where treaties were sworn before deities. Could this space have hosted oath-taking rituals, sealing alliances under the lion's watchful gaze? Or was it a spiritual checkpoint, purifying entrance before they approached the royal Megaron? The answer might lie in the Linear B tablets found nearby, which record offerings to the Lady of the Gate, a deity who may have been invoked here. Standing before these weathered stones today, you're not just looking at architecture. You're facing a portal between myth and history, where the roar of Homer's verses meets the silent testimony of masonry. The lions' absence, their heads lost to looters or time, only deepens their power. They remind us that even the mightiest symbols fade, but the stones they guard keep whispering, telling of kings who dreamed their names would echo as long as these walls stood. Hidden deep within the jungle-covered cliffs of India's Maharashtra region, the Ajanta caves are a time capsule of devotion and artistry, carved not from stone but into it. 30 rock-cut sanctuaries stretch along a horseshoe-shaped gorge, their facades appearing almost organically from the volcanic basalt, as if the mountain itself had opened to reveal sacred spaces. Created between the 2nd century before the Common Era and the 6th century, these caves weren't just shelters for Buddhist monks. They were a canvas where faith and creativity merged, where flickering torchlight once brought vivid murals to life in a symphony of color and shadow. Step into Cave 1 and you're surrounded by scenes so lifelike they seem to breathe. The walls depict the Jataka tales, stories of the Buddha's past lives, with figures painted in pigments derived from crushed lapis lazuli, malachite, and burnt coconut shells. A princess leans gracefully over a balcony, her flowing garments rendered with such delicate transparency you can almost feel the fabric ripple. Nearby, a fresco of the Bodhisattva Padmapani gazes downward with eyes brimming with compassion, his lotus-bearing hand poised as if to bless visitors across 17 centuries. The artists employed a technique called tempera, mixing pigments with glue from animal hides, allowing these works to survive India's brutal monsoons and scorching heat. But the true marvel lies in their composition. Figures are shaded to appear three-dimensional, a sophistication centuries ahead of European Renaissance experiments with perspective. The cave's architecture is equally ingenious. Each vihara monastic hall and chaitya prayer hall was chiseled from the top down, a method that prevented collapses and allowed sculptors to create soaring ceilings without internal supports. Cave 19 stupa, adorned with a standing Buddha, is ringed by pillars that seem to sway inward, an optical illusion making the space feel both grand and intimate. Monks engineered acoustics too. In Cave 26, chanting reverberates as if amplified by hidden chambers, a celestial effect achieved by carving the walls at precise angles. Even the mundane details thrill. Rainwater channels cut above doorways diverted monsoon floods, while polished floors mirrored torchlight to brighten windowless interiors. Then, abruptly, the caves fell silent. By the 7th century, Buddhism's decline in India left Ajanta abandoned to the elements. Jungle vines slithered over entrances, and bats claimed the darkened halls, their droppings ironically preserving murals by forming a protective crust. For over 1,000 years, the caves existed only in local folklore until 1819, when British officer John Smith, hunting tigers, spotted an archway through the undergrowth. His initials, scratched near a bodhisattva painting, mark the moment Ajanta re-entered human consciousness, though his graffiti now stands as a bittersweet testament to colonial curiosity. Restoration has been both a salvation and a challenge. Early attempts to clean murals with bread and sponges damaged delicate layers, while misguided applications of shellac darkened some paintings irreparably. Today, non-invasive techniques like laser cleaning and pH-balanced solvents are employed, with digital scans preserving every brushstroke for future generations. Yet the cave's fragile ecosystem remains under threat. Human breath raises humidity, and sunlight filtering through new entrance gates risks fading pigments that survived millennia in darkness. Visiting Ajanta today is like stepping into a meditation made tangible. The play of light at dusk, when angled rays pierce cave mouths, sets the murals aglow as if lit from within. The air carries the scent of ancient stone and the faintest trace of sandalwood, perhaps lingering from offerings made centuries ago. These caves aren't merely art, they're a testament to patience, where every stroke of a brush and strike of a chisel was an act of reverence. The monks may be gone, but their legacy lingers in the quiet gaze of a painted Buddha, still teaching without words, still drawing pilgrims to this hidden gorge where rock and spirit became one. Rising from the lush jungles of central Java like a stepped mountain of stone, Borobudur is the world's largest Buddhist temple, a colossal mandala in 3 dimensions, designed to guide pilgrims on a spiritual ascent from earthly desires to enlightenment. Built in the 9th century under the Sailendra dynasty, this pyramid-like structure consists of 9 stacked platforms, each tier representing a stage of Buddhist cosmology. The lower levels, adorned with over 2,600 relief panels, depict the law of karma in intricate detail, scenes of worldly pleasures, suffering, and moral lessons carved with such precision they could double as ancient comic strips. As you climb higher, the narrative shifts. The panels grow sparse, then vanish completely on the upper terraces, where 72 perforated stupas house silent Buddha statues, their serene faces peering through diamond-shaped openings. The symbolism is deliberate. The journey from base to summit mirrors the shedding of material attachments, culminating in the vast, empty circular platform at the top, nirvana itself, rendered in stone. What's truly astonishing is how Borobudur survived. For centuries, it lay buried under layers of volcanic ash from nearby Mount Marapi, its existence fading into local legend until British colonial officer Sir Thomas Stamford Raffles uncovered it in 1814. The ash, though destructive, acted as a preservative, shielding the temple's delicate carvings from tropical rains and looters. But the real challenge came when restoration began in the early 20th century. Engineers faced a nightmare. The entire structure was slowly sliding downhill due to water seepage eroding its hilltop foundation. The solution, a monumental effort in the 1970s and 80s, funded by UNESCO, where Borobudur was essentially dismantled stone by stone. Each block was catalogued, cleaned, and reassembled atop a modern drainage system, with rubber sheets inserted between stones to absorb seismic shocks. a marriage of ancient craftsmanship and cutting-edge preservation. Borobudur's design reveals a profound understanding of sacred geometry. From above, the temple forms a perfect mandala, its square base symbolizing the earthly realm, transitioning to circular terraces representing the cosmos. The alignment is no accident either. On the equinoxes, sunlight strikes the central stupa at dawn, casting shadows that align with the temple's cardinal points. Even the stairways are calibrated. Climbing them, pilgrims must turn clockwise, mirroring the movement of celestial bodies. This wasn't just architecture, it was a meditation manual in stone, a place where every step, every glance was an opportunity to reflect on the Buddha's teachings. Today, Borobudur remains a living sanctuary. At dawn, when mist clings to the surrounding rice fields, monks still chant atop its terraces, their voices mingling with the calls of jungle birds. Visitors from Bali and Bangkok leave offerings of flowers at the base, continuing traditions that stretch back over a millennium, yet the temple faces new threats. Volcanic eruptions still blanket it in ash, requiring constant cleaning, while the sheer weight of tourism, over 2 million visitors annually, has led to erosion of the soft andesite stone. Conservationists now limit access to the upper tiers, but debates rage over how to balance preservation with accessibility. Some suggest virtual reality recreations. Others argue that Borobudur's power lies in physical presence, in the act of climbing as generations have done before. Standing at the summit as the sun rises, you're not just atop a monument, you're at the intersection of time, faith, and human ingenuity. The temple's silence is deceptive. It hums with the echoes of chisels, the whispers of pilgrims, and the slow, patient work of those who refuse to let history crumble. Borobudur isn't frozen in the past. It's a conversation between the hands that carved it, the winds that nearly buried it, and the generations who keep uncovering its lessons anew. The Luxor Temple doesn't just stand on the east bank of the Nile. It pulses with life, a sacred space where worship has flowed uninterrupted for over 3,000 years. Unlike most ancient temples which fell to ruin or were repurposed, this sprawling complex has never ceased being a place of reverence, from the days of Amenhotep III to modern Muslims who still pray in its shadow. Its endurance isn't just luck, it's a testament to the timeless allure of its design, where every column, every carving was meant to bridge the human and the divine. Amenhotep III laid the temple's heart in the 14th century before the Common Era, dedicating it to the Theban triad of gods, Amun, Mut, and their moon god son Khonsu. His vision was grand but intimate, a sanctuary where the divine could dwell among mortals during festivals. The original structure centered around a sun-drenched courtyard lined with towering papyrus columns, their capitals blooming like stone flowers. But the real marvel was the temple's axis, deliberately aligned with Karnak Temple 2 miles north, connected by the Avenue of Sphinxes. Imagine this path in its prime. Over 1,300 sphinxes, their lion-bodied forms guarding the processional route where sacred barges carried Amun's statue during the annual Opet festival. The air would have thrummed with incense, drums, and the chants of priests as the god journeyed to visit his southern palace. Then came Ramses II, the great builder king, who couldn't resist stamping his legacy onto Luxor 600 years later. He added a colossal pylon at the entrance, flanked by 6 towering statues of himself, 2 seated, 4 standing, and a pair of obelisks, one of which now stands in Paris Place de la Concorde. The pylon's reliefs depict his victory at Kadesh, a battle historians now know was at best a stalemate, proving even pharaohs spun narratives. Inside, Ramses overwrote Amenhotep's inscriptions, replacing cartouches with his own name, a pharaonic version of graffiti tagging. Yet his additions weren't just vanity. They transformed the temple into a double shrine, honoring both Amun and the cult of the deified Ramses himself. What makes Luxor Temple extraordinary is its unbroken thread of devotion. When Alexander the Great conquered Egypt, he added a shrine to himself in the temple's inner sanctum, cleverly inserting his image into reliefs as if he'd always belonged. Later, the Romans converted part of the complex into a fortress, then a church, leaving frescoes of Coptic saints alongside hieroglyphs. In the 14th century, the Mosque of Abu al-Hagag was built atop the ruins, its minaret rising incongruously from the ancient stones. Today, worshippers still climb stairs through the mosque's entrance, stairs that align perfectly with the original temple's processional ramp, as if the sacred path never faded. Walking through Luxor at dusk, when the sandstone glows like embers, you're tracing layers of faith stacked like geological strata. The temple's walls bear graffiti from Napoleonic soldiers, medieval Arab travelers, and Victorian adventurers, each adding their mark to this palimpsest of human longing. The Avenue of Sphinxes, recently excavated after centuries buried under Luxor's streets, now stretches restored but still incomplete, a reminder that some journeys, like the search for the divine, are never truly finished. The Luxor Temple doesn't just belong to history, it's a living conversation between epochs where the prayers of the past haven't stopped echoing. Perched high in the alcoves of Colorado's Mesa Verde, the cliff dwellings of the ancestral pueblones cling to the sandstone like swallows' nests, fragile yet defiant. Built between 600 and 1200 years ago, these multi-story structures weren't just shelters. They were masterclasses in adaptation, where every beam and handhold was a response to the land's harsh whispers. Imagine scaling sheer cliffs using toeholds chiseled into rock, hauling logs from miles away to frame rooms tucked beneath overhangs, or designing circular kivas, sacred ceremonial pits aligned to catch the winter solstice sun. This wasn't just architecture, it was a dialogue with the earth itself, a partnership forged in survival. The ingenuity of these dwellings reveals itself in the details. At Cliff Palace, the largest of Mesa Verde's 600 cliffside villages, 150 rooms hug the curve of the alcove, their flat roofs acting as terraces for the level above. Tiny windows funnel sunlight to warm interiors during bitter winters, while strategic gaps in walls channeled summer breezes for cooling. But the real marvel lies beneath the surface. Intricate irrigation systems carved into the cliffs collected precious rainwater into reservoirs, a lifeline in this arid landscape. Even the mortar mixed for construction held secrets. Pulverized sandstone blended with water created a paste that hardened like cement, binding walls so tightly they've outlasted centuries of erosion. Yet for all their innovation, the ancestral pueblones left these homes abruptly around 1280, vanishing into the high desert. Theories abound: prolonged drought, resource depletion, social upheaval, but tree ring data tells a haunting story. Between 1276 and 1299, the region suffered 23 consecutive years of drought, a catastrophe that would have withered crops and drained water stores. Artifacts left behind whisper of a hurried departure: untouched corn grinders, intact pottery filled with seeds, even sandals neatly placed as if their owners meant to return. Some archaeologists suggest migrations to the Rio Grande Valley, where modern Pueblo tribes like the Hopi and Zuni trace their ancestry to these cliff dwellers. Others find clues in oral traditions that speak of spiritual callings to new lands. What truly lingers at Mesa Verde isn't just the silence of abandonment, but the echoes of a vibrant culture. Murals painted with mineral pigments still cling to plaster walls, their geometric patterns mirroring designs on contemporary Pueblo pottery. Turkey feather blankets preserved in the dry air hint at a thriving textile trade, while charred remains of piñon pine suggest ritual fires lit in kivas. Perhaps most poignant are the handprints pressed into mortar, ghostly signatures of builders who never imagined their work would become a monument. Standing in these alcoves today, you're not just observing ruins. You're witnessing a testament to resilience, to a people who turned cliffs into communities and scarcity into innovation. The ancestral pueblones didn't just survive here, they thrived, leaving behind a puzzle etched in stone. One that asks us what it means to belong to a landscape and when it's time to let go. The Ellora Caves are a symphony of faiths carved into the volcanic cliffs of Maharashtra, where Buddhist, Hindu, and Jain traditions didn't just coexist, they conversed in stone. 34 temples and monasteries stretch across 2 kilometers, each chiseled not from assembled blocks but directly into the living rock, as if the artisans were uncovering sacred spaces hidden within the mountain itself. What makes Ellora extraordinary isn't just the scale of its excavation but the theological dialogue it represents. Here, a 9th century Jain temple might neighbor an 8th century Hindu shrine, which in turn sits beside a 6th century Buddhist vihara, their proximity suggesting a rare moment of religious harmony in ancient India. The crown jewel of Ellora is the Kailasa Temple, a monument so audacious it redefines what's possible with hammer and chisel. Dedicated to Lord Shiva, this colossal structure wasn't built. It was liberated, with workers carving downward from the cliff's top to remove over 200,000 tons of basalt, leaving behind a freestanding temple complex complete with towers, bridges, and life-sized elephants. The scale is mind-bending. The main shrine rises 3 stories high, its walls adorned with intricate panels depicting scenes from the Ramayana and Mahabharata. Every surface pulses with movement, gods and goddesses frozen mid-dance, their stone garments fluttering as if caught in an eternal breeze. The temple's central lingam, bathed in sunlight filtering through precisely aligned windows, embodies Shiva's cosmic presence, while hidden passageways lead to shrines honoring his consort Parvati and their sons Ganesha and Kartikeya. Archaeologists estimate this single temple took generations to complete, with workers removing rock at a rate of roughly 12 tons per day, all without the benefit of modern tools or blueprints. Just a stone's throw away, the Buddhist caves offer a striking contrast in mood and purpose. Cave 10, known as the Vishvakarma Cave, is a Chaitya hall where light and shadow play tricks on the senses. Its ribbed vault ceiling mimics the wooden architecture of earlier monasteries, but with a twist, a faux wooden beam carved from solid rock, an illusion so convincing you'd swear it could bear weight. At the far end, a 15-foot Buddha sits in teaching posture, his stone eyes gazing past visitors toward an unseen horizon. The cave's acoustics amplify whispered chants, creating an immersive experience that feels both intimate and infinite. Nearby, Cave 12, the Tin Thal, is a 3-story monastery with cells where monks meditated in near darkness, their only light filtering through narrow ventilation shafts designed to mute the outside world. The Jain caves at Ellora, though fewer in number, dazzle with their precision. Cave 32, the Indra Sabha, resembles a celestial palace, its pillars and ceilings adorned with lotus medallions and flying figures so delicately rendered they appear weightless. A sculpture of the Tirthankara Mahavira sits serene beneath an elaborately carved parasol, while Yaksha guardian spirits flank the entrance with expressions caught between ferocity and benevolence. Unlike the dramatic narratives of Kailasa, Jain artistry here emphasizes austerity and symmetry, reflecting a theology focused on liberation from material existence. What binds these diverse traditions at Ellora isn't just shared rock but shared vision. Each faith employed the same techniques: vertical excavation, relief carving, and acoustic engineering, yet expressed utterly distinct worldviews. The Buddhist caves prioritize communal space and meditative silence, the Hindu temples explode with mythological drama, and the Jain sanctuaries exude mathematical perfection. And then there's Kailasa, a feat so audacious it feels like the mountain itself bowed to devotion. Walking from one tradition to another, you don't just witness history, you feel the pulse of ancient India's spiritual imagination, where stone wasn't just a medium but a collaborator in the sacred. The Ellora caves don't just showcase coexistence, they prove that the divine has many faces and the earth, when approached with reverence, has room for them all. The Temple of Artemis at Ephesus wasn't just a building, it was a paradox of divinity and human ambition, a structure so magnificent its absence became as legendary as its presence. Built around 550 years before the Common Era in what's now Turkey, this marble colossus was the first monumental temple in the ancient Greek world, stretching 425 feet long and 225 feet wide, nearly double the footprint of the Parthenon. 127 Ionic columns, each 60 feet tall and carved with intricate reliefs, formed a forest of stone around the inner sanctum, their bases decorated with life-sized figures offering tribute to Artemis, the virgin goddess of the hunt. The roof alone was a marvel, its cedar beams spanning distances engineers of the time thought impossible, while the altar inside held a statue of Artemis so ancient even the Greeks couldn't recall its origins. Worshippers claimed it fell from the heavens, its torso draped with what some described as many breasts and others as bull testicles, symbols of fertility and abundance that reflected Artemis' dual role as both protector of virgins and nourisher of life. Ephesus didn't just house this wonder, it thrived because of it. Pilgrims flocked from across the Mediterranean, turning the city into a bustling crossroads of faith and commerce. Silversmiths sold miniature Artemis shrines to devotees, inns overflowed with visitors, and the temple itself doubled as a bank, its vaults storing treasures from Lydia to Babylon. The cult of Artemis was no passive religion, it demanded spectacle. Annual festivals called the Artemisia featured processions where priests carried the goddess's statue through streets strewn with flowers, while sacred prostitutes, known as hierodules, performed rituals symbolizing the goddess's dominion over both chastity and sensuality. This wasn't just worship, it was theater, an immersive experience designed to remind all who witnessed it of Artemis's power. Then came the night of July 21st, 356 before the Common Era, when a man named Herostratus set fire to the temple's wooden roof beams. The flames spread rapidly, melting gold adornments and cracking marble columns until the entire structure collapsed into a smoldering ruin. Though the Ephesians executed Herostratus and forbade anyone from speaking his name, his infamy survived, proof that destruction too can be a form of immortality. But the temple's story didn't end there. Alexander the Great offered to fund its reconstruction during his conquests, only for the Ephesians to politely decline, claiming it wouldn't be fitting for one god to build a temple to another. Instead, they rebuilt it themselves, this time on an even grander scale. The Second Temple stood for 6 centuries, surviving invasions and earthquakes until Gothic raiders sacked it in the 3rd century of the Common Era. What remains today is a single, reconstructed column rising forlornly from a marshy field, a ghost of the wonder that once was. Excavations have unearthed fragments of the original, a carved Amazon frieze now displayed in the British Museum, foundation stones bearing the marks of ancient masons, and votive offerings left by worshippers long gone. The temple's true legacy, though, lies in what it taught the world about impermanence. It inspired the Roman architect Vitruvius, who studied its proportions, and its ruins became a pilgrimage site for early Christians, who saw its downfall as proof of Artemis's falsehood. Even now, archaeologists debate whether the temple's famed colonnade of Amazons was myth or reality, while engineers still puzzle over how its builders achieved such scale without modern machinery. Standing by that lonely column, you're not just looking at a ruin, you're witnessing the echo of an idea. That beauty and devotion can be so monumental, their absence lingers like a phantom limb. The Temple of Artemis may be gone, but its shadow stretches across history, a reminder that even wonders can burn, yet their stories never truly fade. Rising from the windswept cliffs of northern Spain, the Tower of Hercules stands as the oldest working lighthouse in the world, a sentinel that has guided ships through Atlantic storms since Roman galleys patrolled these waters. Built in the 1st century under Emperor Trajan, this 55-meter tower defies time with the same steadfastness as the rocky promontory it crowns. Unlike most Roman structures repurposed over centuries, the Tower of Hercules never stopped fulfilling its original duty. Its fire may have given way to electric beacons, but the view from its summit remains unchanged, an endless expanse of ocean where ancient sailors once feared the edge of the world lurked. The genius of its construction lies in hidden layers. Beneath the 18th century neoclassical facade, added during a renovation that encased the crumbling Roman core in sleek granite, lies the original masonry, thick walls of opus cementitium, Roman concrete mixed with local aggregates that have withstood 2,000 years of salt spray and gales. Narrow interior staircases spiral upward, their steps worn smooth by generations of keepers who trimmed wicks and replenished oil lamps. The tower's original light came from an open flame amplified by polished metal mirrors, a beacon visible up to 32 nautical miles away. But what's truly remarkable is how the Romans aligned it. Recent studies suggest the tower's orientation corresponds to the setting sun during the summer solstice, turning it into both practical aid and celestial marker. Christianization added new myths to the tower's stone. Medieval manuscripts claimed Hercules himself built it after slaying the giant Geron, burying his head beneath the foundation, a tale that conveniently merged pagan legend with the site's new role as a Christian symbol. The 12th century Codex Calixtinus, a pilgrim's guide to the Camino de Santiago, described miracles occurring near its base, while locals whispered that the tower's light could purify sinners who circled it 3 times. By the Renaissance, it had become known as the Forum Brigantium, its Latin name entwined with local lore. Yet for Galicians, the tower's deepest significance lies in its connection to Breagon, the mythical Celtic king. The 11th century Liber Gabala Iren, an Irish chronicle, describes Breagon building a tower so tall his sons could spot the green shores of Ireland from its peak, a vision that inspired them to conquer the island. Whether this legend references the Hercules Tower remains debated, but the parallel is haunting. Modern Galician nationalists have embraced Breagon as a symbol of cultural identity, his tower reinterpreted as a beacon of Celtic resistance against Roman and later Castilian rule. Every year during the festival of San Juan, bonfires blaze around the tower, merging Christian tradition with older, earthier rites of sun worship and ancestral memory. Walking the tower's perimeter today, you're treading on strata of story. Roman inscriptions lie half buried in the grass, their Latin letters eroded but still legible. The 18th century restoration by engineer Eustachio Giannini added Baroque flourishes, a quadrangular base, a delicate lantern dome, yet left the Roman soul intact. Even the surrounding landscape whispers of layers, the ruins of a Celtic fort beneath the lighthouse keepers' houses, a Muslim cemetery from the brief Moorish occupation of Galicia, and the distant skyline of A Coruña, a modern city that grew in the tower's protective shadow. Climbing to the lantern room feels like ascending through time. The original Roman sections feel crouched and narrow, their ceilings blackened by ancient smoke. Higher up, Giannini's spacious landings offer panoramic views where Phoenician traders, medieval pilgrims, and Napoleonic warships once sailed. On clear nights, the tower's beam still sweeps the Costa da Morte, the coast of death, where so many ships met their end. The Tower of Hercules isn't just a relic, it's a dialogue between epochs, its light a thread connecting Roman engineers, Celtic kings, and modern mariners, all united by the timeless human need to find our way home. Beneath the fairy tale landscape of Cappadocia's rock formations lies a secret far more astonishing, a labyrinthine city carved so deep into the earth it could hide 20,000 people for months at a time. Derinkuyu, the largest of Turkey's underground cities, plunges 18 levels down, a subterranean fortress where entire communities vanished from sight, leaving invaders bewildered above ground. The scale is staggering: kitchens with soot-blackened ceilings, stables for livestock, wine presses, chapels with arched ceilings, and even a schoolroom, all hidden beneath layers of volcanic rock. But what truly astonishes isn't just the space, it's the sophistication. Ventilation shafts, some stretching over 170 feet to the surface, delivered fresh air to every level, while ingeniously designed circular stone doors, weighing up to a ton, could seal off passages in seconds, rolling into place like ancient security vaults. The city's origins are shrouded in mystery. Some scholars trace its earliest chambers to the Hittites around 3,500 years ago, later expanded by early Christians fleeing Roman persecution in the 2nd century. Walking its narrow passageways, you can still spot crosses carved into the walls, alongside pagan symbols suggesting earlier inhabitants. Every twist and turn reveals another survival tactic. Communal wells tapped into underground rivers, ensuring water during sieges, while carefully placed chimneys dispersed smoke from cooking fires, preventing detection from the surface. The temperature remains a constant 61 degrees year-round, a natural climate control system that made life bearable during scorching summers and freezing winters. Durinkuyu's design was a masterclass in communal living under duress. Families occupied small, honeycombed rooms radiating from central gathering spaces, their walls pocked with niches for oil lamps and storage. Deep in the lower levels, a cruciform church with vaulted ceilings hints at the spiritual resilience of its residents who clung to faith even in darkness. But the most chilling feature, the cemetery, bones discovered in sealed chambers suggest some lived and died here, their remains kept underground to avoid revealing the city's location. Rediscovered in 1963 by a local farmer who knocked down a wall and stumbled into the void, Derinkuyu continues to yield secrets. Recent thermal imaging reveals unexplored tunnels possibly connecting to other underground cities miles away, a network some theorize could have sheltered hundreds of thousands. Standing in its depths today, you're not just surrounded by stone, you're enveloped in the ingenuity of those who refuse to be conquered, who turned the earth itself into both shield and sanctuary. The air here still carries the weight of their whispers, a reminder that sometimes survival doesn't mean standing tall but digging deep. Perched on the hill of Agoreos Kolonos, the temple of Hephaestus gazes down upon Athens with the quiet dignity of a structure that has outlived empires. Built in the 5th century before the Common Era, this marble masterpiece isn't just the best-preserved ancient Greek temple, it's a time capsule of classical architecture. Its 34 Doric columns standing undiminished by earthquakes, wars, or the passage of 2,500 years. Unlike the Parthenon, which suffered catastrophic damage during conflicts, Hephaestus' sanctuary endured unscathed thanks to an unlikely twist of fate, its conversion into a Christian church in the 7th century. The temple's survival is a testament to adaptability. Dedicated to Hephaestus, the god of blacksmiths and craftsmanship, its sturdy design mirrored the deity's practical nature. The columns, fluted with mathematical precision, support a frieze adorned with scenes of Theseus's heroic deeds, their crisp details still visible despite millennia of exposure. Inside, the cella once housed bronze statues of Hephaestus and Athena, patrons of artisans fitting for a district teeming with workshops. But when Christianity swept through Athens, the temple was reborn as the Church of St. George Acomates. Instead of demolishing it, builders gently modified it. The pagan altar became a Christian shrine, and frescoes of saints overlay scenes of Greek myths. The very transformations that erased parts of its original identity also shielded it from the ravages that destroyed neighboring structures. Walking through the temple today, you're struck by its harmonious proportions. The architects, possibly the same ones who worked on the Parthenon, employed subtle optical refinements, columns slightly bulging in the middle to counteract the illusion of narrowing, and floors gently curved to shed rainwater. The east pediment, though its sculptures are lost, once depicted the apotheoses of Hephaestus, while the west pediment showed the battle between the Lapiths and Centaurs, a metaphor for civilization triumphing over chaos. Even the roofing tiles, carved from marble so thin they're translucent when backlit, reveal an obsession with perfection. After serving as a church for nearly 1300 years, the temple took on yet another role in the 19th century, a museum for antiquities. Ironically, the very artifacts it once overshadowed as a place of worship found shelter within its walls, until its final restoration returned it to its ancient glory. Now, standing in the shadow of those timeless columns, you're not just seeing a monument, you're witnessing a story of reinvention where reverence for beauty transcended the boundaries of faith, and where the god of craftsmen would surely admire the greatest craft of all, endurance. Rising from Malta's rugged coastline like a puzzle carved from golden limestone, the Haga Kim temples defy the simplicity of the word ruins. These megalithic structures, built between 3600 and 3200 years before the Common Era, predate Stonehenge and the pyramids of Giza, yet their sophistication suggests a culture deeply attuned to the rhythms of earth and sky. What sets Haga Kim apart isn't just its age, but its uncanny precision. The temple's massive stone slabs, some weighing over 20 tons, were arranged in cloverleaf-shaped chambers with doorways so precisely cut that they frame celestial events like a stone calendar. During the summer solstice, sunlight pierces the main doorway, sliding along the temple floor to illuminate a carved niche, a phenomenon that would have marked the year's longest day for worshippers millennia before modern astronomy. The walls themselves tell stories in spirals and curves. Among the most striking carvings are the Fat Lady statues, voluptuous figures with exaggerated hips and thighs, believed to represent a fertility goddess central to Malta's prehistoric religion. Unlike later classical art, which idealized the human form, these figures celebrate abundance and life-giving power, their rounded shapes echoing the temple's own curved chambers. One statuette, the Sleeping Lady, discovered in a nearby hypogeum, rests serenely on her side, her pose so natural it suggests the artists observed real women in moments of rest. These weren't just idols, they were likely part of rituals celebrating birth, harvest, and the cycles of nature, where the divine was intimately tied to the body's capacity to create and sustain life. But the true genius of Haga Kim lies in its engineering. The builders used a soft limestone called globigerina for the interiors, easy to carve but fragile, while employing harder coralline limestone for the exterior walls, a deliberate choice that preserved delicate interior carvings while withstanding coastal winds. The temple's acoustics amplify whispers in certain chambers, hinting at ceremonies where voice and echo played sacred roles. Even more intriguing are the oracle holes, small apertures in the walls where priests, or perhaps the goddess herself, could seemingly speak from nowhere, their voices channeled through hidden passages to astonish the faithful. Recent discoveries have deepened the mystery. Laser scans revealed hidden motifs beneath centuries of weathering, including a spiraling design that mirrors patterns found as far away as Newgrange in Ireland. Pottery fragments suggest trade links across the Mediterranean, while animal bones found on site bear butcher marks indicating feasts held during solstice gatherings. Yet for all these clues, the temples guard their ultimate purpose tightly. Were they astronomical observatories, shrines for healing, or theaters for rituals lost to time? The absence of written records leaves these questions hanging, but the stones themselves offer a tantalizing hint. In one chamber, a slab pierced with perfectly circular holes aligns with the Pleiades star cluster when viewed from a specific angle, a celestial map disguised as decoration. Standing at Haga Kim today, with the Mediterranean stretching endlessly beyond, you're not just looking at a relic, you're standing at the intersection of art, science, and devotion, where every aligned doorway and carved curve was a dialogue with the cosmos. The temples don't just reflect ancient knowledge, they challenge our assumptions about prehistoric cultures, proving that the drive to measure time, worship the divine, and leave a mark on the landscape is as old as humanity itself. The goddesses carved here may be silent, but their message endures. Creation, in all its forms, is worth celebrating. Beneath Istanbul's bustling streets lies a hidden world of dripping arches and ghostly reflections. the Basilica Cistern, a subterranean cathedral of water built to quench an emperor's thirst and outlast an empire. Descending its 52 stone steps feels like stepping into a dream. The air cools, voices echo strangely off damp walls, and suddenly you're standing in a forest of 336 marble columns, their bases submerged in 2 feet of dark water that mirrors every curve and carving. This vast chamber, large enough to hold 27 million gallons, wasn't just a reservoir. It was Byzantine Constantinople's lifeline, engineered in the 6th century under Emperor Justinian to survive sieges, earthquakes, and centuries of neglect. The cistern's grandeur begins with its recycled grandeur. Many columns were salvaged from ruined Roman temples, their mismatched designs Ionic, Doric, Corinthian, telling silent stories of empires long gone. But 2 columns stand apart, their bases not marble but the upturned heads of Medusa, one sideways, the other inverted. Legends swirl around these pagan relics. Were they placed haphazardly to neutralize their petrifying gaze, or as a deliberate statement of Christian triumph over antiquity? The water's surface distorts their snaking hair and wide-eyed stares, making them seem almost alive when fish dart past. Golden carp, introduced centuries ago to keep the waters clean, now gliding like fleeting shadows beneath visitors' feet. Engineering here was both practical and poetic. The walls, 4 meters thick and lined with waterproof mortar, slope inward to counteract water pressure, a technique so effective the cistern still holds water today. Brick vaulted ceilings arranged in repetitive bays distribute weight evenly, while ventilation shafts disguised as wells prevented stagnation. But the true marvel was the system that fed it. Aqueducts channeled water from forests 20 kilometers away, filtering it through sand beds before it entered the city. This wasn't just storage, it was a slow, deliberate purification process disguised as architecture. Rediscovered in the 16th century when locals noticed water mysteriously rising through floorboards, the cistern drifted in and out of memory until 19th century restorers drained it fully, revealing sunken pillars, lost coins, and even ancient graffiti. Today, its dim lighting and haunting melodies composed specifically to harmonize with dripping water amplify its otherworldly atmosphere. Walking its raised platforms, you're treading above Byzantine laborers' handprints left in wet mortar, past columns marked with the mason symbols, and under arches that have echoed with whispers from crusaders to Ottoman sultans. The cistern doesn't just hold water, it holds time, its depths reflecting not just stone, but the unbroken chain of hands that built, maintained, and marveled at this liquid underworld. From the Great Pyramid's celestial precision to the cliffside whispers of Mesa Verde, these 30 structures aren't just relics, they're triumphs of human stubbornness, creativity, and sheer will. Each stone, each carving, each hidden passage tells the same story. Civilizations may rise and fall, but the drive to build, to reach, to outlast time itself is etched into our DNA. Think about the Pantheon's dome, defying gravity for 2 millennia without a single steel beam, or the way Petra's Nabateans turned desert cliffs into a thriving metropolis with nothing but chisels and ingenuity. These aren't just feats of engineering, they're love letters to the future, proof that beauty and function can endure long after the hands that shaped them are dust. What's truly humbling is how these structures transcend their original purposes. The Colosseum, once a stage for bloodshed, now stands as a universal symbol of human spectacle. Angkor Wat, built for gods, has become a mirror reflecting our own spiritual yearnings. Even Durinkuyu's shadowy tunnels, carved for survival, now illuminate the resilience of communities under siege. These places remind us that the past isn't a static thing, it's a conversation, one where we're still answering questions posed by long-gone architects, priests, and kings. So which of these marvels speaks to you? Is it the cosmic clockwork of Chichen Itza, where shadows slither like serpents across ancient stone? Or perhaps the haunting solitude of Easter Island's Moai, their island gaze fixed on some distant horizon? Maybe it's the quiet genius of Machu Picchu's terraces, stitching civilization into the Andes' steep ribs. Whatever stirs your imagination, don't let the wonder stop here. Visit them in person if you can, trace your fingers over weather-worn carvings, and listen for the echoes of those who came before. Or dive deeper into their stories. Every one of these sites has secrets we're still unraveling, mysteries waiting for fresh eyes to solve. Hit pause, look around you. The world is full of modern wonders, yes, but these ancient survivors ask us something vital. What will we build that lasts? What legacy will stubbornly cling to the earth long after we're gone? The answers aren't just in their stones, they're in the choices we make today. So go explore, go marvel, and remember, the greatest tribute to these giants isn't just admiration. It's daring to dream as boldly as they did.